Long ago, in the ancient lands of what is now called Nigeria, there lived two powerful spirits who ruled over the oceans and coastal regions. Olokun was the deity of the deep ocean. He was envisioned as a merman with a human upper body and the tail of a fish. Olokun commanded all the creatures of the deep, the whales, sharks, giant squids, and schools of fish that swam far from shore. He demanded tribute from ocean traders and fishermen who dared to harvest the bounty of his domain. His palace sat on the ocean floor, sparkling with coral columns and seashell mosaics. Yemoja was the queen of the mermaids, half human and half fish like her subjects. She ruled the shallower seas, mangrove swamps, and river mouths. The mermaids answered to their queen alone, guarding her from threats and reporting all that transpired in the waters they called home. Yemoja's court traveled from place to place, setting up wherever the mood struck them. For many years, Olokun and Yemoja kept peacefully to their respective territories. Olokun controlled the open ocean and Yemoja the coasts and rivers. But as time passed, the two grew jealous of each other's domains. Olokun looked upon the rich estuaries and deltas, where Yemoja's people frolicked and grew envious. "Why does Yemoja control access to the human villages?" he fumed. "Their fishing boats tread upon my waters, but pay homage only to her." Meanwhile, Yemoja gazed out at the vast expanse of ocean that belonged to Olokun. "He does nothing but hide in his palace," she complained to her handmaidens. "While we protect the humans, Olokun hoards the ocean's gifts for himself." One day, Olokun decreed that all coastal villages must pay him tribute, just as the deep sea traders did. When the village elders tried to explain that they already paid tribute to Yemoja, Olokun sent storms to flood their fields with salt water. Furious, Yemoja went to Olokun's palace to confront him. "Stay away from the coastal villages," she commanded. "Their loyalty and offerings belong to me." "You only rule the shallows," Olokun sneered. "The ocean's bounty fills my domain." The two powerful spirits argued back and forth, bellowing loud enough to churn the waves above, but neither would back down over the coastal villages and ocean tributes. Seeing no compromise, Olokun and Yemoja retreated to gather their forces. Olokun rallied an army of sea monsters from the darkest depths. Giant squids swam at his side, while sperm whales sounded their battle cries. Yemoja amassed her mermaid warriors, armed with spears and nets that glittered like starlight. When Olokun's army marched on the coast, Yemoja's mermaid defenders rushed to meet them. The ensuing battle was ferocious. Squids tangled ships in their tentacles while mermaids stabbed at them with coral spears. Whales rammed into the mermaids, smashing many against underwater cliffs. For days, the sea ran red with blood as Olokun and Yemoja's forces fought. Coastal villages were ravaged by storms and monstrous creatures from the deep. Neither spirit could gain the upper hand over the other. Finally, exhausted from the brutal conflict, Olokun and Yemoja agreed to parley. They met on a small island to negotiate a truce. "This war is destroying our realms," Yemoja said. "Release your claim over the coastal villages, and I will open their rivers and reefs to your people." Olokun scowled. "You can keep the villages," he conceded, "but their fishermen must pay me tribute for the open ocean's bounty." Yemoja thought for a moment before nodding. "The fishermen will make offerings to both of us," she proclaimed. "You shall receive oysters, crabs, and pearl shells from the deep ocean. I will take tilapia prawns and colorful coral from the coasts and rivers." Content with the agreement, Olokun and Yemoja shook hands. The deities descended to their respective realms, finally at peace. The mermaids returned to rebuilding coastal villages damaged in the war. Olokun's monsters carried news of the truce back to the lightless depths. Thereafter, coastal dwellers celebrated Olokun and Yemoja together during festivals. Fishermen brought offerings to temples and shrines devoted to both spirits. Though the deities' pride sometimes led to small squabbles, they honored the division of territory. To this day, Olokun remains ruler of the deep ocean, accepting tribute from those who venture out in boats or dive for gleaming pearls. Yemoja presides over the coasts and shallows, where her mermaid daughters guide canoes through the mangroves and greet swimmers in the surf. The two powerful spirits keep watch over their realms, magnanimous as long as the balance between land and sea is maintained. Many generations passed this way, with Olokun and Yemoja coexisting peacefully. Their joint festivals continued, and villagers made offerings to both spirits before every fishing trip or ocean voyage. But one year, the rains failed to come to the coast. The rivers and streams dried up, and the soil became cracked and barren. Yemoja's territory transformed into a harsh desert landscape. Desperate, the villagers pleaded with Yemoja to return the rains. But try as she might, the mermaid queen could not summon even a single storm over the parched earth. "Olokun must be stealing the rains," Yemoja fumed to her handmaidens. "He wants to expand his domain by turning my lands to desert." Furious, Yemoja swam down to Olokun's palace and pounded on the glittering coral columns. "Bring back the rains!" she demanded. "My people are suffering!" Olokun floated before her, unconcerned. "The weather is not under my control," he replied. "But if your waters run dry, more humans will have to venture into my territory to fish and trade." Yemoja snarled. "I knew you wished to undermine me." She whirled around, her fins churning the water. "There will be war if the rains do not return." Amused, Olokun watched the mermaid queen storm off. He had no need to steal the rains, but he would not mind luring more fishermen and traders away from the parched coasts. True to her word, Yemoja returned with an army of mermaids, ready to battle Olokun for the rains. Olokun called upon his own forces, sharks with teeth like daggers, giant octopuses, and ink-squirting squid. The two sides clashed in a frenzy of claws, tentacles, and spears. The mermaids sang spells to summon waves to crash down upon Olokun's minions. The deep sea monsters dragged mermaids into midnight black trenches from which they never returned. As the intense battle raged, neither Olokun nor Yemoja gained ground. The dry coasts remained cracked and barren, while rainfall perpetually eluded the inland villages. Exhausted after weeks of fighting, Yemoja called to Olokun. "This is fruitless. The rains have not returned. We must stop." Olokun agreed to cease the fighting. "Perhaps we must seek help from a greater power," he suggested. Swallowing her pride, Yemoja went to plead with Orun, the supreme sky deity. "Please restore the rains to my lands," she begged him. Orun chastised the two spirits. "Your petty quarrels have disrupted the balance between sea and land. The rains will only return when you mend what has been broken." Chastened, Olokun and Yemoja apologized to each other. They vowed to rule their realms harmoniously again.
With balance restored, Orun was pleased. At his command, the sky poured down upon the landers, celebrating the end of strife. Never again would Olokun and Yemoja take the rains for granted. Peace endured for over a century after the rainfall crisis, but Olokun's jealousy slowly crept back as he gazed up at the people and creatures under Yemoja's dominion. "Look how freely they move between land and sea," he griped, "while my subjects are bound to the depths." He longed to walk upon the shores and bask in the sunlight as Yemoja's mermaids did. Olokun decided he must find a way to gain power over the coastal borderlands. Using his magic, Olokun crafted a beautiful conch shell necklace. This was no ordinary jewelry. It contained a spell to control whoever wore it. Pleased with his cunning, Olokun dispatched a stealthy octopus servant to deliver it to Yemoja. The next day, the octopus found Yemoja near a bustling estuary. "A gift for you, great queen," it bubbled, presenting the conch necklace. Yemoja smiled, flattered by the lovely token. Not sensing the magic within, she placed the jewelry around her neck. At once, the spell took hold, making her Olokun's puppet. Under Olokun's power, Yemoja turned the mermaids into an invading force. They swarmed the river mouths, driving fishermen away and dragging canoes into the depths. Strange diseases spread through coastal villages, leaving the inhabitants weak and bedridden. Yet when desperate villagers turned to Yemoja for help, the enchanted queen ignored their pleas. Controlled by Olokun, she only sent more mermaids to harass and torment the people. After months living under siege, village leaders gathered for an emergency council. "Yemoja has always protected us before, but now she attacks us," the elder chief said. "Her mind must be poisoned." The priests nodded. "I sense dark magic at play," the head priest said. "Yemoja is under the influence of a greater evil." "It must be Olokun," exclaimed one elder. "He has never trusted Yemoja's bond with the coasts." The old priest thought for a moment. "We must find a way to break the curse upon her, but mortals cannot stride into Olokun's realm." "What if we ask Orun for help?" suggested the chief's young son. The elders agreed it was their only hope. They performed rituals asking the sky deity Orun for aid. Moved by their plight, Orun appeared before them in a dazzling display of light. "Dear Orun, break the curse upon Yemoja," the chief pleaded, "or we shall surely perish." Orun nodded. "I shall temporarily grant you the power to walk beneath the waves. You must find Yemoja and remove the cursed object that binds her." Thanking Orun, the 7 elders marched into the churning water, transported by divine magic into Olokun's kingdom. Never before had mortals entered the ocean spirit's domain. Down they dove through coral caves and seas of grass swaying in the currents. Strange fish scattered at their approach. As the seafloor opened up, they beheld Olokun's magnificent palace. The god himself sat on a throne of barnacle-encrusted wood. Yemoja floated next to him, her eyes glazed over by the conch's power. "Thieves!" Olokun roared. "You do not belong here!" But the elders' magic held. They strode across the seafloor into the throne room. The chief held up his staff. "Your tricks betray our trust, Olokun. Release the queen at once." Scowling, Olokun sent sharks and tentacled beasts to block their path. But the elders were protected by Orun's enchantment. They sang songs learned from the mermaids to soothe even the most monstrous creature. At last, they circled Yemoja, inspecting her body for any sign of the cursed charm. Around her neck, the chief spied the conch necklace glowing with sinister power. "Foul magic," he proclaimed. With care but force, the chief snapped the cord and lifted the conch free. The glow around Yemoja vanished. She blinked, finally herself again. "What happened? Where am I?" she said, confused. With Yemoja freed, Olokun could only fume impotently as the elders escorted the queen out of his dominion. Above the waves, the people of the coast rejoiced at Yemoja's return to health. The cursed necklace was burned, so it could never entrap her again. There was more rejoicing when Orun appeared that evening. "Your courage and love for your queen broke Olokun's bitter spell," he praised the villagers. "Never again shall he be able to control Yemoja so." From that day on, Yemoja redoubled her commitment to guarding the coasts. With Orun's blessing, she and all mermaids became immune to Olokun's magic charms. The sea god seethed in his palace, furious at being thwarted. But he did not dare send any more curses above the waves. The power of Orun and the humans' devotion proved greater than his own. For now, the villages remained safely under Yemoja's care. Olokun's jealousy and thirst for control had only hardened their bond with their beloved queen. United by their trials, the people of the coasts and Yemoja prospered together, trusting the balance between sea and land would hold. That's it for this video, folks. Be sure to subscribe to our channel Pictales for more stories like this one. Leave a comment letting us know what stories you'd like to see come to life. Don't forget to like and subscribe for new African tales and fables every week.